All right, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Hot Route Takes. I'm your host, Chase Owens, along with my good friends Brian Sarver and Christian Mills. We are finally to playoff football, an exciting weekend of wild card teams and division winners. 6 total games for you guys, 3 on each conference to break down. We're going to do it extensively since we don't have all 18 to preview or all 16 rather, to preview as we have been doing in the regular season. A little bit more in-depth analysis and thoughts of players and position groups that could be the X factors in this matchup is what we're going to strive for in this episode. So we're going to lead it off with the first game on Saturday, 4:30 NBC game between the wild card winning Cleveland Browns, an 11-6 record in the regular season, traveling to Houston to take on the AFC South Texans, who won that division in Week 18 by defeating the Indianapolis Colts, and thanks to Jacksonville's loss as well. So, an interesting matchup. Brian, do you have an X factor here for either side, either team, that's going to be the key guy to watch in this matchup? And then we'll get our thoughts on all of those and give a little prediction of which team we have to come out victorious in this matchup.
Yeah, if I'm going to pick an X factor, I think I'm going to go with Joe Flacco, just because he's been playing some of the best ball of his career so far, or through the 2023 season, and it was kind of unprecedented because he hadn't played in a couple years, and he came in and started lighting it up. But the one thing I will say that he has done this year, despite his good plays, turned the ball over, some interceptions, a few fumbles here and there, but I think all in all, if he can continue to push the ball down the field at the rate he has and the success he's had with the defense that they have, I think they're in a good position to win this game. However, if he does turn the ball over and he gives C.J. Stroud and company a few extra opportunities to put some points on the board, I think that could spell trouble for the Cleveland Browns. So it's kind of a Joe Flacco needs to play his best ball kind of deal in order to come out with a dub here.
My X factor is, granted they didn't have CJ Stroud when they played Cleveland the last time they played, but it was Amari Cooper, his big game. He had the 265, 2 touchdowns. So I think that's going to be my X factor going into this game. So I'm thinking if they don't have an answer for him after what he did the last game, if he goes and have another go round of that, then Cleveland, that's going to be the guy that you could easily say is going to be the X factor. But I will say, just the big X factor too for me is CJ Stroud on the other side of the ball, just because if Cleveland's defense cannot have an answer, which a lot of teams have not had an answer for CJ Stroud. So if Cleveland's defense, definitely Myles Garrett, since the injuries kind of, you can say, struggled getting to the quarterback, but at the end of the day, it's still Myles Garrett on the other side of the ball. So hopefully those guys can try to get home on CJ Stroud. But my biggest X factor I'm going to go with is Amari Cooper.
I like it. He had an absolute day, a historic day. I believe he set the franchise record for receiving yards in a game in that matchup. So Houston's going to have to do a better job against him and Flacco to come out victorious. Cleveland does open as 2.5-point favorites in this matchup. So that's it's one of the tighter lines as far as wild card weekend goes. For me, I think the X factor, I'm going to go on Cleveland's side, and I'm going to go on defense. Pass rushers not named Myles Garrett. I think Myles Garrett is a Defensive Player of the Year candidate for great reason. He's been utilized so well by Schwartz and company, and he wins most of his one-on-ones, if not all, really. And he does stunts to get other guys lanes to rush the passer. So I think if Za'Darius Smith and the other Cleveland pass rushers can win their one-on-ones and really rattle C.J. Stroud, they have a great chance of winning this game. Cleveland's defense, we've talked on all year, one of the better units. Second at season's end, they finished second in defensive DVOA, one of the higher turnover teams, one of the higher sack teams. So just talent all throughout that defense. That's the matchup I'm watching. I think the Cleveland offense versus Houston defense isn't as exciting for me, just considering the star power seems to be more on Houston's offense and Cleveland's defense. So that's where I'm looking at for X factors. As far as a game prediction or how you think this game's actually going to play out, guys, do you care to share your winners, maybe a score or a margin of victory that you have in mind, and who comes out victorious in this ball game? Brian, start us off.
I'm going with the Browns, and it has a lot to do with the success they've had on defense this year, and the fact that they kind of gave Houston problems earlier in the season with their backup, or Joe Flacco. Um, so just that fact combined with you know the Texans and their defense just being a younger team, rookie quarterback, Bobby Slowick running the show on offense. I think that they've shown a lot of good things this year, but they've also had a lot of disappointing losses. And I go back and I think about what the Jets defense was able to do against them a couple weeks ago when Stroud first suffered the concussion. The Jets front really got after him, and they blanketed the field. And I think the Cleveland Browns could do something similar with their pass rush and having a guy like Denzel Ward be able to go and go after Nico Collins. And if you look at the last game Stroud played, I think he had about 250 yards passing, and about 150 of that was to Nico Collins. So they got to find other ancillary receivers and things like that. And I think that the Cleveland defense has just been proven this year that they are a really solid unit, top end elite unit, and that they're going to have to earn it. So that's why I kind of went with Joe Flacco as the X factor, because the interceptions is giving more opportunities to this Texans offense. Could spell trouble, but and otherwise, I think that this is a pretty good matchup for Cleveland.
Yeah, I actually went back and forth on this matchup, but it really came down to Houston one not having Tank Dell, and like Brian just hinted on, their next guy, I believe you can say, is Noah Brown, and it's a big drop from what Tank Dell. Granted, he's a rookie, but what he's done since he's really came on to the scene has been impressive, and now they're missing that piece on offense. But I just think the Browns. I think Joe Flacco, being a vet that he is, will notice, hey, this is playoff football. I got to quit doing those things, turning the ball over, trying to hit this throw. And I just think Cleveland, a thing I will say about their coach is, well, I mean, when it comes to playoff football, we've seen Baker Mayfield. He really simplifies this offense to a really simple level. And I think Joe Flacco will be, hey, this is what you need me to do. I will do that. I'm not going to try to play hero ball. And I just think, like y'all just said, this Cleveland defense, I could see maybe copying and pasting, like Brian said, what the Jets were doing to try to get after C.J. Stroud, and that'd be a good key to kind of pick up on early and seeing, hey, if they're coming after them, yeah, this should be a Cleveland game then. But score-wise, I mean, I really do think this is going to be one of those games that come down to the wire, but I mean, I can kind of see Cleveland winning this game, I'd say by 10.
Wow. So more than a one possession final margin for you, Christian. Interesting. I think these are two closely matched teams. I went back and forth like both of you did. As far as the AFC sides of the bracket, this game to me was the most flip flop I had in picking a team. Ultimately, I did go with the Texans, so I'm going to differ here. I know both of you have Cleveland. I think it's going to be a close one, like you guys say, but Houston, I think if they can get a little bit of pass rush from a healthy Grenard and Will Anderson, I think those guys' health is key and generate Joe Flacco into some mistakes, which he has already done in his tenure in Cleveland, and get those turnovers to really get hold of momentum and let CJ Stroud and the offense cook. I believe that can spell good and a good formula for a victory here. So if it's close late, I will say I trust the Browns kicker more. Houston's had some trouble in that department in the last few weeks, so that does scare me. But I'm gonna say the Texans pull out a close victory, something along the lines of a 24 to like 22 score, something like that. So that's it. That's our thoughts on Cleveland and Houston. We'll move along to the primetime Saturday game on Peacock, featuring Brian's Dolphins traveling to Arrowhead to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams were 11-6 this season. The Dolphins, a wild card, will be on the road taking on the West-winning Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs open as 4.5-point favorites, according to Vegas. It's been well documented. If our listeners aren't aware by now, the temperature and the weather for this game is going to be historically cold out in Kansas City. I believe Christian has a few good stats for that back up, and we're going to dive into that. And we're going to dive into what players we need to be watching out for in this matchup. Brian, your Dolphins been skidding here. Obviously, didn't end up winning the East, and this is their punishment, I would say, traveling to a very tough environment in KC. What needs to go right for your Dolphins to pull off this quote-unquote upset and come out victorious in Kansas City?
So I would probably say that due to the weather, it's going to change how this game is played. Not only because it's cold, but it's not necessarily just cold. It's not supposed to have a lot of precipitation. So not a whole lot of snow or rain or things like that. Things can change, but that being said, they're still going to have to run the football. It's just that cold. Even without rain and snow, it's so cold that guys' fingers and everything are going to be doing this, and they're going to be hands in the pockets, all that stuff, like -5 degrees with wind chill. I mean, it's going to be cold. So that being said, I think the X factor has to be Devon Achane. Raheem Mostert being a little banged up. Miami's going to attempt to run the football in this game. And I do think that between the two teams, Miami has easily a better rushing attack. Easily better rushing attack. So that being said, Devon Achane is going to probably have to carry a good portion of this, and it could be the X factor. So far this season, the guy's averaging 7.8 yards a carry, which is tremendous. I mean, that's top-notch stuff right there. Granted, he is not getting the volume. That being said, I don't expect anything different in this game. I think it's going to be a Jeff Wilson running the show with Devon Achane sprinkled in there here and there, and he's going to have to make the most of his touches, and I think that gives Miami a chance to win this game.
Yeah, man, there's just a couple things that really, eats at me when I went on this game and kind of looked at it, and Brian didn't hit on it. I figured he would, and it's going to be the pass rushers for the Dolphins. I understand they get, since last hearing from us, you have a Bruce Irving now. Does that really add much to that? And it's just, you're playing Patrick Mahomes. I don't care what the weather is. If you cannot get to Patrick Mahomes, and I mean, he has, however Mississippi's you want to give him, 5 to 6 to 7 Mississippi's back there. I think this is an easy KC win, to be, completely honest. If you can't get to Patrick Mahomes, I understand they were struggling. I mean, heck, they were struggling when they beat y'all early on in the year when it was, 14-21. It really came down to the fumble return to really separate that game. And I just think, Patrick Mahomes, looking at the stats real quick, he was 20 for 30, 185, 2 touchdowns in that game, and there really wasn't a lead receiver. It was a committee. I mean, everyone got involved in that game. I think from then to now, Brian talked about Achane. I think Isaiah Pacheco's changed a lot on who he is as a player. That's, to me, like Brian's picking the X factor on running back. I think if you go to their side, it's going to be Isaiah Pacheco. And I think if he can get going with those temperatures, speed kills, but Pacheco's power. And ain't you going to be cold out there? I ain't going to say these guys, they're NFL guys. They're not going to be scared to hit them, but I think he's going to be wearing these guys down. And I just think the Dolphins, Chase did hit, and I had some stats, man. To a career record in games when kickoff temperatures is lower than 45 degrees or cooler is 0-4. And Brian already said what the temperature is expected to be 10, but Brian said, with the wind and all that, it's probably going to be lower than that. So, Tua hasn't proved that he can play in the cold. Granted, you can say who was on the field with him in those games and things like that, but I just think KC, been here, done that, playoff football. Andy Reid is a new coach for Miami. He has had playoff, last season, but without his guys. This will be his first actual, you can say, playoff chance and run this year. And even with me saying he has his guys, Brian will probably say, we don't have a lot of them, but we have some of our guys. And my big thing and another X factor, I can say on Miami side, it's going to be Tyreek Hill. We've seen him week in, week out now not look like Tyreek Hill. He's not healthy. He has the wobble. The ankle's really hurting him right now. So I think KC's more healthy. And I love their DC. I think he's going to really throw something at Tua this week. So I'm going with KC. And I just think, they're just more healthy too.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
I thought we were just doing X Factor.
Nah, I wanted to go ahead and get my pick, man.
There's no sugarcoating it from Christian. I think we all kind of knew, our listeners knew where Christian was going in this football game. And honestly, if you go back and listen to our preview of KC and Miami in the regular season, that Germany game, I think my thoughts in that was Miami, their offense was such a sound unit. It was really clicking on all cylinders going into that game. I view Miami as the better team in 2023. But this injury-riddled Miami team and the second half Miami team is totally different. I know KC's had its struggles mightily in the second half, but Patrick Mahomes is at least healthy. They're a much healthier unit on defense, and that's why my X factor is Chris Jones to negate that run game. He's obviously playing for money at this point, and to get a big payday, he kind of had a really heralded regular season, 10.5 sacks as an interior defensive lineman, very strong numbers, and he got paid his incentives based on that sack production. But I think a good playoff run to show his value will go a long way to getting him that long-term deal he's looking for. So I'd expect a big game from him. So that's really the player I'm looking at. And as for prediction, like I said earlier in the year, I'd have this matchup a lot closer. But given the lack of pass rush, as Christian hit it on for Miami, I just think Patrick Mahomes having that much time back there to get Kelsey involved finally. Maybe we didn't touch on it enough this year, but he was hurt coming into the year and he never really looked like himself at any point. I think having the week off or a little time to rest as he was resting starters last week will do benefit for him and Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to take KC probably by, I'd say 10. I don't expect a lot of points in a cold game, but I'm going to go like a 27-17 type game, something like that. So I'm going to take KC to come out. Brian, your prediction and final thoughts on this game.
All right. I would like to start off by saying, as far as cold weather games go, I know we like to look at blank stats without context around here, but they did play Buffalo in the snow last year and lost by 2 points in the game-winning drive at the end by Buffalo. So there's that. And then last year in the playoffs, without their guys, and Skylar Thompson lead the way, they lost by a field goal against Buffalo. Now, I'm not sitting up here celebrating losses. I'm just saying it was a competitive game, and to say we have no shot, I think is ludicrous, because I think that we still have playmakers on both sides of the ball. Yeah, we don't have an edge group, but we still got Christian Wilkins and Zach Sealer, and they're both very capable of making plays and stopping the run. So, that being said, I do think, given the talent that still exists on the roster in a cold weather game, which you would expect not just Miami to run the ball more, but the Chiefs to run the ball more as well, I do expect this to be a low-scoring game. It's going to be a matter of who can stay clean and not turn the ball over and be able to score in the weather. And I do err more towards the Chiefs. And the reason why is due to a Patrick Mahomes being able to create with his legs. And I think that's going to be a very valuable piece of this game, him being able to extend plays and not force it. Now, there will be instances where if he does force it, I think that could fall favorably in Miami's hands, just because last time they played, they did hold KC to 14 points and did not move the ball in the second half, like hardly at all. And the Chiefs had the ball. So, in a cold weather game, what does that look like? Granted, that was with 2 elite edge rushers on the field. They don't have that. So, can they stop the run? And if so, can they be opportunistic on 3rd and longs in the cold weather? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that, but I am going to go with the Chiefs, and I'm going to go with the Chiefs by field goal.
Yeah, I think in order for a Dolphins victory to emerge here, it's really going to take masterclass from McDaniel and Tua. And we talked on the relationship and how the Buffalo loss wasn't all on those guys or all on Tua, as the media really tried and the Twitter world was really trying to portray that game to be. But they have a chance to really kill that narrative in cold weather games, all those things we've touched on in this preview, with 2 great performances from those guys. I know you have a lot of belief in them. I do too. I think they've showcased a very strong resume for 2023. So not out of the question they put together another strong performance in the playoffs, so when they need it most. So we'll see how that one plays out. That's the 2 Saturday games we had to preview for you guys. The last AFC matchup is the first one on Sunday. So all the AFC action will be wrapped up before NFC, oddly enough. I don't know if recall NFL doing it that way, but that's the way it falls this year. First Sunday matchup, the Bills and the Steelers. Probably the least exciting, given how lackluster Pittsburgh's offense is, and Mason Rudolph starting a playoff game. I don't know how many fans are lining up to purchase tickets for that one. And it's the biggest spread of all these games. Buffalo favored by 10 points by Vegas coming into this one. In Buffalo, Josh Allen starting to click a little bit more these last few weeks. He had a strong Week 18 performance, I'd say, in terms of yards at least. And Diggs is kind of starting to pick up a little bit here. So I think the X factor for me, no TJ Watt on the Pittsburgh defense. So who is there to make plays and keep Pittsburgh in this game and the offense a chance to win it in the end? Because they need a good defensive performance. I don't see Pittsburgh's offense scoring a lot. So I'm going to go with Mika Fitzpatrick. I think he needs a turnover. He needs either a forced fumble or a pick off of Josh Allen, which we know Josh Allen's the league leader in picks. He can make that happen if he takes in the time and watches films and sees some tendencies with Josh Allen's. Mika's a smart safety, man. He's very good. He was banged up a lot this year, but if he's healthy enough to be full go in this one and can make a play, I think that greatly increases Pittsburgh's odds in this one. So he's the player I'm watching out in this ball game. How about you guys?
I would like to start out by saying the spread is at 10 points in this game, which is showing like
Insane.
no respect to Pittsburgh. But and I mean the other two, the Browns, Texans 2.5, Miami and Chiefs are 4.5. So like double what they had against Miami and the Chiefs. So I think that shows you a lot where Vegas is head at. But my X factor, it's going to be run of the mill, if you will. Anyone would say it, Josh Allen. I mean, the guy's been an X factor all season long. When he plays good, the Bills win. When he turns the ball over too much, they lose. And so in this game, I think that as long as he can play clean football, which he can, I think really this is a game where you can take the ball out of his hands a little bit. Let the rest of the team cook. We've seen games this year in which Buffalo won games without Josh Allen being a Superman. So I think that's one X factor, but I did want to add another one here, and that's George Pickens on the Steelers. I think that without TJ Watt, this defense is going to be hard-pressed to really hold Buffalo back from scoring a whole lot of points. I do think they still have a pretty solid unit, and they're coached well and everything like that, but TJ Watt's the guy that really made this defense operate the way it has for a large portion of the season. That being said, I think Buffalo did lose a lot of corners this year. They lost a corner against Miami as well. And I think Christian Benford, I believe is his name, has been playing great football this year, but they're still light in the corner room. And if Pittsburgh has any chance of winning this game, they're going to have to get the ball in George Pickens' hands and let him go to work. I mean, I'm on record saying George Pickens is a bust, this and that, but he's made plays this year, and he's been a source of light for this offense. And I don't think they win this game, but George Pickens, if they do, will have a major hand in doing so.
To start off, I'm going to go with, I guess, my X factor on the Buffalo side, and I'm going to go with James Cook. I think this will be a good bounce-back game. He had to drop in the Miami game, get him involved, get him that playoff experience that he doesn't have yet. Then you can ride him out through the rest of your playoff run if you win this game. So I think that is a key for Buffalo to really get this going. And another big key that we hadn't talked about a lot on this pod is Buffalo's red zone offense. Do something this game to make it at least look better, get better in the red zone is a key definitely for this game. If you are up big, try to run some better schemes in the red zone because it's not looked great for Buffalo. But I will say on the Steelers side, I have two guys. One is Alex Highsmith. He will be, having to step up for the J.J. Watt not being there. So I think that is a key for him to get going, try to get at Josh Allen. It's going to be tough. There's a lot of guys that try to get to him. But if he can have any luck at trying to get back there to get to Josh Allen, that's a big, big thing out of him. But my other one is, Mike Bryan just said he gave his shout out to a guy that he talked a lot of junk about. I'm giving mine to a guy, and that is Najee Harris. He has big moments. I will say Buffalo ran last week and then kind of went away. Not Buffalo. Miami ran a lot last week and then kind of went away from it. And I think if they get Najee Harris going in this game, it really gives them a great opportunity to win this game. If they can control the ball, get Najee going, I think that is a big key for the Steelers. And I think that'd be right on point on how they want to play probably this playoff game and definitely against Buffalo to keep the ball away from Josh Allen as long as they can. So if Najee can have a big day, Alex Highsmith can get back to the quarterback, I think that's, the two X factors for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, so we'll get right into score predictions here, and I don't know if we're going to differ at all because this is the biggest spread for a reason. Buffalo's coming in scalding hot, 5 straight wins. Pittsburgh really limp into the playoffs. They probably the weakest playoff team, if I had to guess, out of all 14. But a 10-7 record is a credit to their coach and the defense and special teams and how well they played there. That said, no TJ Watt, man. That's the best player on this roster. I think that makes a huge impact. Josh Allen just gets stuff going. and the Bills really cruise to a multiple score win. I'd say something along the lines of 31 to 14, 13. I don't see it being close at all. I think they cover the spread, actually. So I'm going to take the Bills at home.
All right. Yeah, I think I'm going to go 24-13 Bills. And like I said, if the Steelers do have a chance to win this game, it's going to be George Pickens, I think. And I just don't have that faith in Mason Rudolph. I think it might get uglier than that, but I'm going to go 24-13.
Last thing I will say is a little stat that I kind of saved for my pick, and it's, since drafting TJ Watt, the Pittsburgh Steelers are 69, 32, and 2 with him. Without him, they're 1 and 10. They were without him this game. I don't think that changes this a lot, but I mean, they can't win without him on the field. They've won one game, and ultimately, I think that's going to give the Bills a 31-17 victory.
All right, so all of us on the Bills there. The AFC side of the bracket, I think, would be shocked to see an upset, especially those two last games. The Texans Browns, you can go either way. That's a coin flip game. But when you get on the NFC side here, guys, I think each wildcard team has a great chance of pulling an upset. These spreads are a lot closer. All of these wildcard teams possess a unit, a side of the ball that scare you as the opposition. And we're going to lead it off with the first Sunday game is Packers Cowboys 4:30 kickoff. Dallas favored by 7.5 points at home. They win the East. The Packers grab that last wild card spot. So a 2-7 matchup here. We know the history between these teams. The did Dez catch it game out in Lambeau. You had the late Aaron Rodgers game-winning field goal drive down in Dallas. Mike McCarthy coaching against his former team. All the storylines and the Dallas, as an entity, is a huge storyline in the playoffs given their performances in recent years. So a lot to look for, a lot to guys to key in on and single out as an X factor. For me, I'm going Jair Alexander. I think the matchup between him and CeeDee Lamb is key. Obviously, Dallas, they've been one of the top units. They have not lost at home this year, and the offense is reason for that. They are really, really good at home on offense, and CeeDee Lamb's had a lot of big games. I think if Green Bay finds a way to negate him and force Dallas to beat you on the ground a little bit and maybe try to find Cooks or another wide receiver to beat you, that could spell formula, a good script for them to win this game. So that's the matchup I'm watching for. How about you guys? Either side of the ball, either team, a player you're looking for in this matchup?
Oh, yeah. I think the key matchup here is Micah Parsons and how the Green Bay offense tries to deal with that. I do think that the young receivers also deserve a shout out here in the first big playoff game. Can they continue to play as well as they have been playing? I think at this point, Jordan Love, you're going to get at least good play. It's kind of hard to quantify what he's been able to do this year because all these young receivers, how good are they really? But that being said, I think Micah Parsons is an absolute game wrecker, and he can wreck this game if they do not pay proper attention to him. They like to move him all around the defensive front, put him on the edge, put him, at 3-tech, blitz him as a linebacker. The guy can do it all. He's very versatile, so they got to very much be aware of him and account for him. And I think if Jordan Love can continue to play the ball he's been playing on the later half of the season, I think that the Packers give themselves a chance, but there is no chance if you can't take care of Mike Parsons. So that is my X factor.
Yeah, for me, I went back and forth on who I was going to pick for an X factor, and I ultimately went with both teams' running backs. I'll start with Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones, if he can, definitely what we seen last week. Granted, it was a blowout game, but if he can get going and definitely get Michael Parsons, maybe, stay at home, not so much get to the quarterback. But, hey, I got to worry about him too. He's eating us up. I think that'd be a big key, and definitely Green Bay to kind of give Jordan Love a couple give-me throws to Aaron Jones, maybe out of the backfield like we used to see with Aaron. I think that'd be a big step going into this game to just get Jordan Love in the flow of the game maybe. And I think, Tony Pollard's the other one on the Dallas side. The guy has not got into the end zone a lot, but he has not been what we thought he was going to be this year, you could say, because, they were really sold on, hey, we don't need Zeke no more. This guy can do it. And he has moments where you see it, but it's also been a lot of moments where you see Rico Dowell come in and be a better running back, to be honest. So I think Tony Pollard is a big game for both, just running backs in general, who can get going. I think that's what separates this game, is what running game can actually get going.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point there, Christian. And with that, we'll kind of just dive right into predictions. Like I said, I think the NFC bracket is just way more interesting. I kind of could talk myself into either team in all three of these matchups. For me, I tend to ride with the better quarterback, and I think this one has an electric matchup. And Dak has been one of the best quarterbacks at home this season, so I'm going to continue to ride that wave. I'm going to take the Cowboys in a close ball game and maybe a late score, a late game winning drive, and we'll say a 20, let's go 26-23, something crazy, scoregami type score, maybe 26-22, something like that. I'm going to take the Cowboys by a slim margin at home to come out victorious in this one.
All right. So I think this is going to be a shootout, guys. I think that this has the potential to be very interesting, fun game to watch. And I think the Dak Prescott has to show up to this football game and play the ball that he has played so far this year. But one thing I will say, and I know you guys probably know this, but Dak Prescott has not had his best play against good teams. But he's in luck because he plays the Packers this week, and their defense is just not good. So I think that they can get things rolling on offense. And although my heart wants me to pick the Packers, I really want to. I think this defense is going to hold them back. Although I don't think it's going to be any fault of LaFleur or Jordan Love or anything on this offense. I think it's going to be a shootout, and they're going to put up points. I just think this Green Bay defense is like non-existent at times. And, they allowed Bryce Young 2 weeks ago put up 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. I think Dak Prescott can do that, and CeeDee Lamb's going to be a big part of it. Like you said, though, Chase, Jaire Alexander is going to be a crucial part of this football game and how he can slow down this passing attack and force them to kind of funnel their offense elsewhere. That being said, I'm going 38-35 Dallas.
Dang. Man, this is a tough game to pick. Like Brian said, man, I can see both ways, and just the Cowboys playoff football, it makes me really want to lean towards the Green Bay Packers. And it's just the Green Bay Packers, you look back at just the recent couple games they've played, Green Bay has owned them. I mean, it's a crazy amount. I don't know the stat, not going to try to guess it, but they have a nice winning streak on Dallas right now.
9-1 in their last 10, I believe, is what I saw today, Christian.
Yeah. And it just seemed like they have their number right now. But, I mean, with that being said, I just, like Brian said, I cannot believe in this Green Bay defense. I think the other thing that scares me, Brian, don't think it may happen, but I do think this Dallas defense that does get turnovers is going to get 1 or 2 off of Jordan Love in this game. And that ultimately makes me go in the direction of Dallas. I just think Dak Prescott knows how much this season is riding on really him. I think he knows that. We seen after their victory, he didn't want to wear any of the like their championship stuff. He's we're waiting on the big one. So I think Dak Prescott this year's really took a step back and knows how big this is for him and this Dallas team. So I think Dan Quinn, they know that he's probably going after this year. The Dallas know this is their make or break year. And with that being said, I got them winning this game. I mean, if I had to really put a score on it, I mean, maybe 28-21. I think it is going to be a defensive game. I can see Dallas game-winning drive, Dak Prescott, big moment kind of thing go on in this game. I think that'd be key, big momentum builder for that team.
One thing I didn't touch on, I do want to say about this game, given how the regular season went, if this thing is to come down to a kick, you're betting your bank account on the Cowboys, right? Because the kicker didn't miss a kick all regular season, and Green Bay's rookie kicker, Carlson, struggled all year, missed extra points at times. But just given Cowboys' history in the playoffs, I would not be shocked to see him miss his first field goal in a crucial moment in this game, and the Packers kicker, who's had trouble all year, flip the script and make his. That would be truly scripted NFL Dallas playoff type stuff, but something to keep an eye on maybe for this matchup as we put a bow on that. To finish off Sunday night, guys, we got maybe the biggest anticipated game, at least in terms of a fan base. the Detroit Lions have been waiting to host a playoff game longer than I've been alive, guys. And it's going on close to 30 years, I believe. They last hosted a playoff game. They get to do that, and the caveat is they get to face maybe the best quarterback in franchise history, Matt Stafford, returning to Detroit for the first time in prime time with a red hot Rams offense traveling. So you got Vegas opening with Detroit as 3-point favorites. You got Dan Campbell in that group, just a fighting bunch of guys that really play hard for him. And the offense, when it's right, is a really strong unit. Defense worries me a bit at times. We touched on that in this podcast. And I've kind of went here and there on which players could make an impact, but I'm going to shed a little light on my X factor, and it's really the guy that stirs the straw, obviously, for the Rams, and that's Matt Stafford. He's got all the eyes on him coming back to Detroit in this game, and I don't think his regular season was talked about enough of how good he was. Like, he should get MVP. I don't say he should win the award. Obviously, I want my guy to get it, but he should get some type of down-the-ballot votes because his season was really, really good. 85.9 offensive grade, his second highest in his career. The best, the Super Bowl season with the Rams. 83.8 passing grade. He made 33 big-time throws in the regular season to just 12 turnover-worthy plays. Like, he's had a phenomenal rookie year. Or not rookie year. Puka Nacua has had a phenomenal rookie year, and that's all thanks to Matt Stafford. He really knows how to get these playmakers the ball over the middle of the field, and Detroit's defense scares me a lot. I think if the Rams get pressure in this game, that could spell trouble for the Rams or the Lions offense. So a lot of ways to look at this game. I kind of went back and forth. I'm going to save my prediction because I want to hear you guys' thoughts. But any players, any sides of the ball, position groups you're looking out for in this matchup, one of the most anticipated ones in Wild Card Weekend. Brian, why don't you lead us off with what you're thinking?
I can't believe you picked Matthew Stafford, man. I mean, who would have thought to pick Matthew Stafford in a game where he goes and visits Detroit? Anyway, I think I'm going to go with, and this is script based. I really think there is a certain script Detroit has to play to get this dub, and I think it has to go with their offensive line taking control of this game and really getting push up front. I know they have Aaron Donald, but other than that, this defense is lacking playmakers, and I think particularly against the run other than Donald. I think that if they can establish line of scrimmage and get Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs going downhill and making plays and control the clock and force them into obvious pass situations, and that's, I think, their only chance. I do think that the return of C.J. Gardner-Johnson to this Lions defense is huge in their ability to stop the pass, because they have been funneling a lot of it through the middle of the field. This is a Shanahan coaching tree, so they are going to throw the ball in the middle of the field, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and but also Kyren Williams. So be prepared for that. I do think that it's going to come down to running the football, taking control of the ball, keeping the ball out of Matt Stafford's hands, and just playing on schedule football. Don't get third and longs. Don't put yourself in positions to where you can make turnovers and let the Rams put up a quick 6. That is a recipe for disaster for Detroit. And I think that if they are to go on and win this football game, it starts up front with this good Detroit Lions offensive line.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of went opposite of Chase, but I'm gonna save that one. But my first guy is going to be Williams, the running back for the Rams. I think what we've seen is Matthew Stafford really hadn't had to work in the red zone to when they get to that, 5 or closer. It's been the Williams show. The kid's finding the end zone. He's getting the job done for them. And if he could do that this week too and not make them have to really draw up plays for Matthew Stafford to get into the end zone, I think that'd be a big key against this defense. But on the other side of the ball, I was going to, say opposite Chase and go Jared Goff, but it's not so much Jared Goff, it's really St. Brown. I mean, the guy should have been a Pro Bowler. You can say what you want about Pro Bowls now, but he should have been one. Dude's played amazing this year, crazy numbers. Look at his stats. He's even said it multiple times. They speak for themselves. And I think St. Brown against a Rams defense that, since Ramsey's been gone, they don't have a corner number one. And I think this is a good game for St. Brown to really just torch it up and really get this pass game going and make, like I said, Jared Goff is technically the X factor, I guess you can say, that he cannot make the turnovers, but I'm giving it to St. Brown. I know if Jared Goff plays great, that means St. Brown more than likely is the reasoning behind it. Without no Sam Laporta, I believe, in this game.
Yep.
So St. Brown's going to have to hoop for them offensively.
Yeah, I think losing Laporta is huge for Detroit's offense. Getting hurt in Week 18 and quote unquote a meaningless game, very big blow for Detroit. To me, I think the Detroit defense has a solid run game or run defense at least, and they can contain Williams a little bit, but that secondary leaves me no hope of containing Matt Stafford. But you flip the other side, I don't have a lot of confidence in the Rams either, as far as the defense goes, but Aaron Donald still gets it done. He has a lot of pressures, and one of the league leaders in pressures, especially in terms of interior defensive linemen. So he's good to make a play in this game. And for that, I'm going to take the Rams in my prediction. I went back and forth a few times, but I think it'll be one of the more entertaining games. I think Matt Stafford puts up a lot of points. I'm going to say 31 27 Rams in this one.
All right. So I went with Detroit here, and I do think it's going to be a large part to the ground game and keeping Stafford grounded, not allowing him to find that rhythm. That being said, a little bit of a lower scoring game, not tremendously. I do think there were points put up here, but I'm going to go 24-20 Lions.
Dang. I went with, a shootout. I think that's really what this game's going to be. You can say I'm probably shooting very high, but this is what I see, a shootout happening. But ultimately, I think the Detroit Lions win this game. I think crazy numbers, I know, but I think it's going to be like 38-28 Detroit, win by 10. I just think their offense is a lot more weapons against the Ram defense. It just doesn't have that many weapons on it.
Yeah, I mean, both defenses concern me really. Is it Hutchinson to make a play? Is it Aaron Donald to make a play for that unit? I think it's a big thing to watch for the audience in this ball game. So that leaves us with just one last wild card weekend game, the Monday night football game between the Philadelphia Eagles, who finished the season 11-6, the top wild card, the 5 seed, taking on the NFC South winning Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who finished the year at 9-8. Right now, Eagles open as 3-point favorites. These two teams did play in the regular season on Monday Night Football, oddly enough, earlier in the year. I think this was like a week 3 matchup, and Philadelphia pretty much handed the game from start to finish. Defense played really well that game. Baker didn't have a whole lot going, but the Tampa Bay offense has been a whole different unit since that point, especially later in the year. For me, Baker's health, the big question. How ready to go is he? I think he's fine. He's going to play this one, but how strong is that arm to get the ball downfield to your Mike Evans and Godwins and really make the big plays happen to keep you in this ball game? Because I think Philadelphia, although they've been a sinking ship, they're still a very strong roster if they can just figure some things out. We talked a lot of the downfall of the Eagles and the Chiefs, the Super Bowl matchup last year. I'll go on record to say that I would not be surprised to see one of those two teams at least in a conference championship. Super Bowl, I don't know, but those are two really good teams, really good rosters still, and they have been there, done that mentalities. So I would not be shocked to see them in conference championships. I think the Eagles have a favorable matchup, but one that they're going to have to hone in on the defensive side. So for a player I'm looking out for, I'm going to go with, let's go with receiver, A.J. Brown. How healthy are you? Are you playing? Are you able to make plays for Jalen Hurts and just take some pressure off him? Because he hasn't really been the MVP type candidate he was coming into last season's playoffs. You need to take some pressure off Jalen Hurts. You need to get things moving on that side of the ball. I'm going to look for A.J. Brown to make some big splash plays and get the Eagles rolling. So, player I'm watching out for. How about you guys? A group or a player you're looking out for from either the Eagles or the Bucs? Oh, Go
Well,
ahead, Christian.
I'll go ahead, man. He gonna try to steal my guy Baker. Now I'm gonna let him have it though. But for me, I mean, hopefully I don't steal Brian's guy from the Eagles, but it's gonna be DeAndre Swift is my X factor for them. Will they run the ball? The fan base has been preaching it. We seen last week the Panthers kind of have success running the ball, and I mean that's the Panthers team that no one would expect any good things to come out of. But they had some good runs against this team, and I think on the other side for Tampa Bay, another guy for the Eagles is Slay. More than
Yeah.
likely, I think he's going to be the one matched up on Mike Evans. If I had to take a guess, so how good is he going to be up against Mike Evans is a big key, I think, in this game. And then now on the Tampa Bay side, I think I'm going to go with the guy I've been preaching a lot, and instead of Baker, it's White. I mean, this guy has been their guy, their X factor in a lot of these games. And we talked last pod, you can go listen to it, but I talked a little bit about, how this offense and defense line for the Eagles have pretty much let this team down. And I think, the Tampa Bay Bucks is going to go with White and see if they can have some of the success that other teams have had up against this D line that's kind of beat up, ate up, tired, whatever you want to say is a key. And then another guy that we hadn't talked about yet is Jalen Hurts, the finger. How healthy are you? I mean, I seen my quarterback with a finger injury this year. It does play a big effect on a quarterback, as you could imagine. So what Jalen Hurts are we getting? Will we see, the tush push on 3rd and 1s, 3rd and 2s? I think that's going to be the game changer in this game. What team, when it's 3rd and short, can win in the trenches? Whichever team can do that, I ultimately see coming out and winning the game.
Yeah, Brian, as we get you back in here and to finish your point about Baker, Christian just wrote off some good ones about Darius Slay being a key guy to look out for. DeAndre Swift, obviously, the Philly ground game's been a huge topic among fans of that team, a unit and a side of the offense that they really want to see get going. So that's what he identified as things to look out for in this matchup. You were talking about Baker and what he needs to do for the Bucks to win. Go ahead and finish up your point there, Brian.
Yeah, I don't know when you guys lost me, but I kept talking for a minute there until I was kicked out. But um, I think Baker Mayfield, he was banged up last week, man. He was not 100%. And I do think against this Philly front with the guys that they do have, you don't want to get hit by one of these guys. And I think his health is paramount. He's going to have to push the ball. He's going to have to be the Baker that we've seen all year. And a large part of the passing game has been Mike Evans, but also like Christian has been on all year. Rachaad White, he's been a major part of this offense's success. They struggled last week against Carolina. I understand that they're not 100%, but where are they at right now going into this game? That's kind of where my head is with the Bucks. But also, I think if Philly is to return to their former glory or whatever you want to call it, it's going to be through the ground game. And the one thing this Tampa defense has been good against is the run. Another thing that I completely whiffed on when I was looking at the Tampa Bay roster is they've been able to stop the run this year. And I think they're 5th in rushing yards allowed against them per game. So I think that the Bucks are kind of positioning themselves well to do well in this game, but also it's critical that Baker Mayfield's healthy and able to play well.
Yeah. All right, so we'll get into predictions for this final wild card game, guys. NFC side, like I said, I think it's a lot more closely contested matchups. The Bucks really didn't inspire me a whole lot in Week 18 when you're playing for a division title and only put up 9 points against the Panthers. That worried me. And I know the Eagles have been sliding, but I'm going to just keep dying on this hill. I think they finally figure it out this week on the offensive side and get a little bit going and get those receivers involved, have a little bit better success running the ball with Swift and company. So I'm going to take the Eagles to come out victorious on the road. I'll say a final of 21-16 against Tampa.
21-16. All right. Well, I thought this was one of the hardest games to predict, really, just because of the status of where both teams are right now as far as health goes. But I did save a little something, an X factor, if you will, for this game. I know we just did X factors, but I think that the Philadelphia Eagles win this game off of Jalen Hurts and the Devonta Smith connection that has been lacking this year. I think they find it in this game. I do think they're going to have to throw it and find rhythm through the air to win this game. So that being said, I'm going to go with the Eagles with a score of 28-21.
Dang. This was a tough one. Tough one for me. You know, I've been with the Baker Mayfield train, the ride throughout the whole season, the ups, the downs. And this game, it's just both quarterbacks coming in. I mean, you can say one's limping, one's holding his hand. What's going on with both of those guys coming into this game? But the Eagles, the last couple games have looked tough. I mean, we seen Tyrod Taylor last week. I understand this is a new week, but we seen Tyrod Taylor throw for 300 yards almost. And I just think if we get any sort of Baker healthy, not turning the ball over, I think Baker could have a great game. I really do. I mean, I've died with the Eagles, like Chase said, too. I just believe in this team, but I can't do it this week. I went with Tampa Bay. I just think the team's ultimately at this point, I think it's a better team. I really do. I mean, right now the fans are calling for, their coach, the Eagles, to lose his job in Nick after everything he's done. And I just think there's a lot riding on this game for the Eagles. But it's kind of what I said with Miami. You have Jalen Hurts. Now you have A.J. Brown. Linebackers not been that great. The D-line's not holding up like they should be. The offensive line hasn't looked great. I just think Tampa Bay's the better team at this point. I see them winning. Picking a score was tough, but, I mean, it's just the Eagles have allowed so much points these last couple weeks, and it's kind of, I went, 31-21. I think Tampa Bay can do it. Their kicker's been great. I mean, he's been in the league forever. So I just think the kicking game is going to be key for Tampa Bay, and if they can knock that down, then definitely come out with a win.
Yeah, interesting. I think one of the more interesting storylines of where these teams thought they were going to be when we all previewed them at season's beginning. We all viewed Philadelphia as the top, if not the top dog in the NFC, along with San Fran, probably, right, coming into the year. And we all predicted Tampa Bay to miss the playoffs, probably finish towards the bottom of the NFC South, and they've just proven us wrong all year. So credit to them. Great storyline to watch for the final wildcard weekend game. Enjoyed previewing it with you guys. I think there's a lot of interesting matchups, and I'm very interested to see the AFC bracket, obviously, with Baltimore being off, seeing who we may play in the divisional round. And I think the NFC side, San Fran's really looking the same way. We have potential divisional matchups in the divisional round. You can have a Cleveland Baltimore, you can have a San Fran LA Rams game, a Dallas Philly game. So many things can play out. But at the end of the day, playoffs, one game sample size, one hot quarterback, one hot receiver, whatever it is to make those plays. You can ride that to a Super Bowl. I've seen it for my team. I've seen it for others. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun to watch. I can't wait to discuss it with you guys when we get together next time. As always, to all our listeners, we want to thank you for tuning in with us. Please rate, review the podcast itself on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Give us a like, a share, and a subscribe on our YouTube pages and TikTok and Instagram, all at Hot Route Takes on that one. Leave the comments on the videos we get posted for you guys. Follow us individually on Twitter. I am at Chase Owens96. Christian is at C_Mills241, and Brian is at Sarver_Brian. Much love to all you tuning in for the whole regular season. We're excited to get this playoffs underway and some great football, kick our feet up, and watch a lot of entertaining stuff go down over the weekend. So until next time, guys, we will holler at you for the Wildcard Recap Show when we see you again. Thank you all. Till next time. Peace out.
0-2 versus KC.
Come on, don't do it.
Gosh, no, not again. Not again.
Struggling to finalize like it did last other night.
Freezing up like Tua in the cold.